everyone. Welcome to Avaya University and our Overcoming Chronic Pain curriculum. I am Andy Anderson, and my partner Ike Allen and I are the founders of Avaya. Thanks so much for joining us. In this next class, we are talking with fellow teacher Dr. Peter Martone. He is a chiropractor, an exercise physiologist, and owner and director of Atlantis Chiropractic Wellness Centers. He will be talking with us about how your sleeping position can cause chronic neck, back, and shoulder pain. And I've got to tell you, I was totally blown away by my conversation with him and all of the really amazing things that I learned, and I can't wait for you to also learn them. All these things about sleep, sleeping position, and how it relates to obviously our alignment in our body and how that relates to the development of potential chronic pain, how this is all affected by the foods we put in our body, the alcohol we put in our body, all sorts of different things, and how it's all interconnected. So I'm sure you're going to find it really fascinating. So some of the key things you're going to learn about are what your neutral sleeping position is. Are you a side sleeper or a belly sleeper or a back sleeper? I tend to be a side sleeper, and we talked all about that and all about actually how it cannot be the best sleeping position and how your neutral sleeping position is really where your weight is distributed over the greatest surface area of your body. And it's a position where you should be able to stay in for hours, where your neck is supported, but your head is not supported. And this is a sleeping position that is on your back. So if you're like me and you're a side sleeper or maybe a stomach sleeper, and this does not sound appealing to you, please tune in and listen. He has a lot of great tips for people who have a hard time sleeping on their backs and some different things that you can do to start getting into that habit and recognizing that it is a slow process. It's not something that you need to do overnight, not something that you need to adopt right away and do perfectly. It's something that you can ease into. So he also talked about just really how sleeping position over the course of years and years and years can actually cause our chronic pain. And that was his experience of having chronic low back pain. And it's just a fascinating story and probably something that you might be able to relate to you in your life and in your journey. And he also talks about how food and drugs affect our sleeping patterns, right? He talked about like 80% of our healing happens at night when we're asleep, right? This is the time where our bodies are at rest, where we are most likely to heal chronic pain, heal any wounds that we have that need to be healed, any aches and pains, things that are developing in our body. This is the time when our body is actually able to heal and alleviate those kinds of things. But obviously, if you are not sleeping well, that is not going to be the case. And second to that, if you're sleeping in a position that is causing you chronic pain, that is not going to help. It's going to be more difficult to fall asleep. So many, many amazing insights. And I can't wait for you to dive into this topic with Dr. Martone. And we hope that you enjoy the insights, you apply his tools and tips in your life and share them with friends and family. And now, without further ado, for our class with fellow teacher, Dr. Peter Martone. Please, everyone, welcome Dr. Peter Martone, also known as Dr. Sleep Right.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that, Andy.
Yeah, thank you so much for doing this and being here. And I'm so excited to dive into this really important topic as it relates to sleep and chronic pain. So let's just get a little started with your story. I know that you have a backstory, quote unquote. So how did you get into?
I like that. That was good. That was unbelievable. Well, yeah, I have basically a chronic pain story. Little humbling as a chiropractor and an exercise physiologist to kind of talk about having back pain almost every day of your life. See, I'm a very athletic individual, big mountain biker, and I do Spartan races and eco challenges. So I was always hard on my body. So I just attributed being hard on my body to having chronic pain, and I lived with it. And I'm just like, oh, it's fine. It's just a little back pain. And I always had, I would be able to move in a certain direction and always have something, some sort of pain. And I think we just talked about my 40th birthday. My back went out on me so bad. Like I couldn't even move. It was so bad. And that just started a snowball of events till finally I was mountain biking. And I jumped off a thing on my mountain bike, and I landed on a rock a little weird, and I herniated a disc. So when I was in the ambulance, and then I couldn't move. And then I was in the emergency room. I was sitting there, I couldn't move, fearing my practice, saying, how could my life have gotten to this? Like, I'm a chiropractor and I'm in the hospital because I can't move because of my lower back. And it was just I was in a very, 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 very depressed, low state. So with my leg numb and trying to get back into practice, I was getting adjusted, and then I finally rehabbing my back. And I said to myself, listen, this isn't right. Why did this happen? So now instead of, embracing where I was, instead of denying where I was, embracing it and starting to say, listen, I have the information up here. I know what's right. I know what's wrong. Let me try to figure it out. So I did a review of 2,000 x-rays, 1,000 patient files, and I came up with the pattern. And I came up with the pattern that it blew my mind that it never existed before. It blew my mind that I knew something was there, but I really didn't tie into it. And we're going to go over that today, what it is about my sleeping position that caused my chronic pain all of these years.
Before you ever had this accident, right, you had all the lower back pain. So that's what we're talking about. So chronic pain as it relates to your sleep.
Okay. Yeah, chronic pain as it relates to back and neck pain. I had some neck discomfort, but I always had chronic pain. So I'm going to teach you how, not just your sleeping position, but also your bed, how to use your covers correctly, how to, use your pillow correctly, because there's so many things as a culture, and there's so many things that are going on in our culture right now that make your sleeping position in the way that you sleep a lot more more important than it used to be.
So what is, I know that in your work you talk about a neutral sleeping position. So what is the neutral sleeping position?
So what I did when I looked at my x-ray in general, so guess what I have, Andy? A little spine, right? So in order for the muscles on this side of the spine and this side of the spine to be loose, you want the spine to be straight. If you have any curve here, not that the curve is being caused by a tight muscle, that's kind of the paradox, but why I was looking at this saying, oh, I only have a small little curve in my lower back. There's not really too much of a problem. But the why this curves goes all the way to the neck. You need to have a nice neutral curve in this neck, and you want to support that. So the way that I explain the neutral sleeping position, it is a position that you should be able to lie in, that your weight is distributed over the greatest surface area. So if you were to lie in that position and watch TV, let's say, or you were to lie in that position and kind of stay in that position, you should be able to stay in it for not 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours. You should be able to stay in that one position for hours. Because if you expect to not toss and turn all night long, you have to start with the end in mind. You have to start in a neutral sleeping position. Because if you sleep on your side like this and your arms up, or you sleep twisted, if you sleep twisted and you sleep in these contorted positions, you can only stay in those positions for 20 minutes, half an hour before your arm goes numb. Then you have to get out of that position. So you have to start with the end in mind. So the neutral sleeping position is, as we'll explain, is sleeping on your back. And I know you say I can't sleep on my back, but we'll get there. Sleeping on your back with not your head supported, because your pillows should be for your bed, not your head, right? We should make a nice pillow that is for our neck, and we'll talk about that. But before we design the neck nest, we had people put down pillows underneath their neck, so their neck was supported and the head lays over the back of the pillow. And we'll demonstrate that, stuff like that.
Got it. Okay. Yeah. And I did cringe a little bit when you said sleep on your back. Like, I'm one of those, right, that sleeps on my side. But I too, I think actually even just last night I woke up and my arm, right, like I have the tingles in my fingers and I'm like waving my arm around in the middle of the night because it's gone to sleep. So, so do you want to dive into that demonstration as far as neutral sleeping position, or is that something?
Yeah, well, I don't have a bed behind me, but I have videos on this that we'll talk about at the end, that people, if they want to find out more information, they'll be able to. Actually, know what we'll do?
Okay.
Anything that we talk about, we'll put a link at the end, and I'll have neutral sleeping position. I'll show the pictures of all of this stuff because I have
Excellent.
pictures of everything.
Okay.
And so just, yeah, they'll be able to go to that link to be able to see the pictures. So we'll put it in there. But basically, if you can imagine, I hate to even say it, but lying in a coffin, right?
Yeah.
So on your back, but your arm should, instead of being like this, should be right down by your side, extended. And then the pillow, so in the left side, right? If you can see me from this here, should be your neck should be supported, not your head, right? People do this. And we call it the modern day lifestyle. So there's something that's called text neck, where if everybody's going to be like this all day long, they're going to be on computers all day long, they're going to be looking down all day long. What that does is that causes the cervical curve to do that. You're losing the cervical curve. Then everything's getting tight. And the body doesn't want these muscles to be tight. The body doesn't want to elongate the central nervous system. So what it does down to here, to take pressure off of that, it twists the lower back. So when you lose the cervical curve in your neck due to your modern day lifestyle and reinforced by your poor sleeping position, you're picking up muscle tension in your lower back that twists the lower back. So everybody comes into me with back pain. I have to tell them it's because of the neck, the way they're sleeping, and it's a neck issue. Because I was seeing tens of thousands of people that all come into me with neck pain, and they keep coming in with neck pain no matter how much I adjust them. So now that we're changing their sleep positions, like me, I found that when you lose this cervical curve, you pick up the rotation in the lower back, changing their sleeping position. People need their chiropractic adjustments less. They can go long at times without it, and they're holding themselves more accountable to keeping themselves out of chronic pain.
So like I'm visualizing it right now. So when we have our necks supported, but our heads are back against our bed, is that creating the opposite of text neck or whatever, right?
It is.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, and the neck isn't you'll see when I add the show notes, the neck should be in a specific position. I show the angle. So your head's about 2 inches off of the bed in order to be in that neutral position, because of the distance between the back of your neck and your shoulders is about 2 inches.
Got
right?
it.
So you want it in line. And then another thing that, because now I was talking about lower back pain, and then we talked about a muscle innervating this. This is something nobody's talking about. And when I was in school, I learned about this muscle. You know that it's there, you know that it's in spasm. And the one thing that I never made the connection with is the psoas major muscle, which is this muscle that comes from here, right, the front side, and inserts down to here, is the only muscle in the human body that attaches directly to a disc. So when I was in school, I knew that. Nobody ever tells you why. It's just, it's attached to a disc. There's got to be a reason. Our making does not create us without reasons. So, and what happens is when the neck comes forward, the way the body turns the spine is it innervates the psoas major muscle, which causes a decompression of this disc, which weakens the disc. So when you are a bad side sleeper, when you're a side sleeper, or you losing the cervical curve in your neck, you're actually causing lower back disc issues because of that psoas major muscle spasm. And that is what I did. That's what I found with that review of 2,000 x-rays, is that my weak back and my weak disc was caused from that loss of cervical curve in my neck.
Yeah. Wow. So like, I'm just thinking also, what about the softness of one's bed? Because I know that if I sleep on a bed that's really soft, I do not feel good in the morning. I need a pretty firm mattress, but that's just my experience. So is there like a recommendation there too?
Yeah, so let's say Andy's sleeping on a bed and she's trying to sleep on her side. She'll do this on her side. Yep. So a soft bed is going to be tough for you because of your poor sleeping position. Okay. Like when I explain my bed is, I have like a sleep number bed. Not that I want everybody to go out and get a sleep number bed, right? And then I have a thick latex down, like a mattress topper. Then I have a chili pad on top of that so I can change my core temperature. Then on top of that, I have a down comforter. So, I mean, my bed's like this thick. I'm sleeping on a feather. It's like, and my body contours into it, but I'm sleeping on my back.
Mm-hmm.
and it's creating it's distributing that surface area over my weight over the greatest surface area.
Got it. So I know you talk in your work about like sleep hacks. Like if you can't fall asleep, maybe you're someone like me who's used to sleeping on my side and I'm now starting to try to sleep on my back. Like what recommendations do you have for people on how to fall asleep if you're, in an unusual position, I guess?
All right. Do you remember back in school? Do you know what an ostrich does when it's in pain, when it needs to feel protected or when it's in trouble? Where does it put its head?
Put its head in the ground, right?
In the ground, right?
Yeah.
Because it feels protected.
Uh-huh.
So when you are sleeping, you like to sleep like this. We like to feel protected. And it
Mm-hmm.
has a lot to go back to, like our childhood. And when you sleep on your back, how do you feel? You feel exposed, right?
Right.
So in order to sleep on your back, first off, it depends how much curve you have in your spine. It takes a long time to be able to sleep on your back. You should only start on your back for 1 to 2 hours a night and then go on your side and then do what you do in the regular part of the day, because it's going to take a long time in some cases to get used to it. So, but when you sleep on your back, you feel exposed. That is where these weighted blankets come in, or if you don't want to spend the money on one of those, you just put a pillow over your chest. You put a pillow over your eyes. You cover your eyes with a blanket. Something that creates security and comfort is really one way to be able to get you to sleep on your back.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah. So it's really important to use pressure to mimic how you feel when you're on your side.
Got it. Okay. I'm just taking a couple notes there. Any other, like, now let's say not necessarily related to someone who has a hard time sleeping on their back, but any other like hacks for people who have a
Sure.
hard time falling asleep?
Absolutely. So you cannot. This is very interesting. Your sleep centers are in the back part of your brain. So you sleep back here in the back part of your brain. Your memories are in the back part of your brain. That's why what happens is you dream by trying to, take all your memories, and the body makes some sort of sense of it. Like when you're thinking about things in present, to be present, and to think about things in the future, that's in the front part of your brain. So now, how do you get the blood from the front part of the brain to the back part of your brain? You can't think yourself to sleep. So if you're trying to think about what you have to do tomorrow, if I'm trying to think about this interview, or if I'm trying to think about, well, actually now that the interview is done, I could think about it tomorrow night. But if I was trying to think about things that have to happen now or in the future, you're here. If you want to take the blood and bring it back here where your sleep centers are, you need to remember yourself to sleep. So you can't think yourself to sleep. You got to remember yourself to sleep. So that's the old adage of, counting sheep or doing something mundane. So what you want to do is you want to focus on a memory in the past. This has to be a good memory. You have to have a good feeling to it. You have to feel good about it. You want to remember everything about it. You want to remember how you felt about it. You want to remember how the smell of it. You want to tap into that memory in the past, because the more you focus on remembering, the less you're thinking, the quicker you'll fall asleep.
Got it.
Pretty cool stuff, huh, Andy?
Yeah, that's interesting. And I'm sure most people can relate to when our minds are spinning from here, thinking about what's happening tomorrow or what needs to be done. That is definitely not the way to fall asleep. So
No, and you'll never get to sleep. If you're listening to like the TV, or you're listening to like different audio pitches and things like that, you'll have to be exhausted to get to sleep. Like you should be able to fall asleep, at the same time every night and wake up at the same time. That's actually a hack too. Coming up with a schedule. That's the toughest thing for people. People vary their schedule so much. You should go to bed at the same time and wake up at the same time every single night.
Got it. Is there any like suggestions? I mean, everybody's different. Some people are morning, I think, right? Some people are morning people and some people are night owls. I am definitely not a night owl. So I tend to go to bed, I don't know, by 10 o'clock every night. So is there any like research around that, or thoughts around like the time of day we go to bed and get up and how we function?
Yeah, there is so much around that. So the first thing that I tell people is you can't improve what you don't track, right? So I like the Aura rings, and there are different things out there that monitor your sleep cycles, and they monitor everything. So you want to monitor and know where your sleep times are, and when you get to deep sleep and when you get to shallow sleep. So, but the rule of thumb is that most people have energy spikes twice a day. One of them is going to be at midnight, and one of them is going to be at noon. Those energy spikes, and you'll notice when you get fevers, it'll rise to midnight, and then it'll come down. It'll rise till noon, and then it'll come down during the day. That's why fevers go like this. There's so many things and processes in your body that go around these energy spikes. And that's tied into your circadian rhythm, right? So that's tied into your energy spike changes during the winter time, and then in the summertime when you have more sunlight out. So let's use the average that your energy spike is at midnight and noon, okay? Mm-hmm. Well, you should be in deep sleep, which happens within the first 3 or 4 hours of your sleep. The most of it happens when the first 3 or 4 hours of your sleep before your energy spike, because then that way, every hour of sleep before midnight is worth 2 hours of sleep after midnight. So knowing your energy spikes are pretty important. But if to go back to it, so you should be in bed. 10 o'clock is a good time. I typically go to bed at 9:30, so right around there. So go to bed at least 2 or 3 hours before your energy spike, which in the winter time kind of drops back to like 11:30, because you'll lose it about a half an hour. So you should be going to bed around, if your energy spikes, if we can use midnight, you should be going to bed around 9:30. And you can get away with it 10 or 10:30 during the summer.
Got it. Okay. Interesting. This is fascinating stuff. And we kind of got on a little tangent there, but based on my question, but bringing it back to chronic pain, like in your experience, is a lot of chronic pain caused by poor sleeping position?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Your health and your well-being, as you know, is a product of your beliefs, right? Because your beliefs define your actions. So your health is a product of what you do on a regular basis, not once in a while, but on a regular basis. And your beliefs are defining that. So you're basically a product of what you believe. So, and you're a product of what you do over and over and over and over and over again. So what we have to do is we want to we pick out a few things in our lifestyle. To me, sleep was one of them. And most of the reason people have pain is because they have especially neck and back pain. They have degeneration in their neck, in their back, which is loss of space. And when you degenerate the cervical spine or the lumbar spine, different than any other joint in the body, knees, hips, ankles, you have a nervous system there. So when you lose the space, you compromise the integrity of the nervous system. So you can have digestion issues that are associated with breaking down your sleep structure. Breaking down your spine to your poor sleeping positions, breathing issues, allergies, asthma. There's so many chronic pain and health-related issues that are not just related to how you're sleeping, right? If you get a good night's sleep, it's the structure of your sleep, because it affects the structure of your spine, which affects the structure of your central nervous system. So it's all tied in. Sleep is huge. Number one, I believe.
Got it. Well, that's, it almost seems like this is not talked about enough, because there's right. Like it doesn't seem like this is at the forefront of the conversation of chronic pain. And yet, like you're saying, right, it's these behaviors or actions we take so regularly, like sleep every single night. If you're like most people, right, you're sleeping every single night. And that position is, wow, I've never really thought about it that much.
And nobody has. And that's why when you Google it, like, where do you go? I did that to try to look for resources. There aren't any out there. They're telling you about like, okay, this is how your brain data and alpha, and, it goes into all these data waves, stuff that you can't even understand about that, and sleep studies and sleep apnea. And there's so much more to sleep and how it affects your body. And that's really the difference that I'm trying to make with the work that I'm doing, is really get people to understand, listen, you have 8 hours a night, hopefully, right?
Yeah.
8 hours a night to really reverse the damaging effect of what you did to your spine all day long. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to do anything. And I tell my patients, give me 8 hours a night and I'll change your entire life.
Right. So what about things like, you know, you mentioned right during the day all the damaging effects of that we're doing to our spine, and then there's things like what we put in our body, the foods that we eat, maybe drugs or medications that we take. So what are those kinds of things? How do those affect how we sleep?
Yeah, so let's talk about, remember, the sleep centers are in the back of our brain, right? The pain centers, memories are in the back of our brain. The pain centers are also in the back of our brain. So there's no coincidence that they're all like sitting there together. So when your body is in pain, what it does, let's say when you're sleeping, what it should do is pull you, so your body rises in pain. It will pull you out of a deep sleep, and ultimately we do 80% of our healing at night when we're sleeping, and most of it's in deep sleep. So we get pain, pulls ourselves out of a sleep, it tosses us, and then we go back down. Then because of your sleeping position, you get pain, pulls you out of a sleep, you toss again, and then you drop back down. So you toss and turn all night long, not knowing it because it's done subconsciously. Well, if you take a medication, or let's say a sleeping pill, or you drink alcohol, or you take THC, not CBD, but THC, and you take one of those things that dulls your pain centers, instead of sleeping in this position for 20 minutes when your body feels the pain, you'll stay in this position up to 4 times longer because your body never senses the pain, and then you pull something. You wake up with a tight neck. You wake up with, a tight shoulder. And that's where I tell people, you give me a side sleeper, I'll give you a tired, overstressed, underworked, underpaid, side sleeper, right? Because if you give me somebody with a shoulder problem, I'll give you a side sleeper.
Right.
Because what happens over a period of time, over that chronic lifestyle habit, these medications that you're taking and the alcohol and different things, they suppress your sleep centers, and you'll actually wake up having more pain in the long run.
Right, because your body hasn't detected, okay, it's time to go into recovery mode and healing mode, because it doesn't detect the pain that you're in. Oh my God, that's crazy. How about, what about food then? What kinds,
Right.
how does that affect our sleep?
A huge thing in our sleep is deep sleep. Once I started monitoring, tracking my sleep, it was crazy for me to see how much deep sleep I was lacking. Right? I was getting a great night's sleep. Sometimes I'll get 9 hours. Sometimes I'll even get 10 hours if I need it. I'm not afraid. But I wasn't getting great deep sleep. And the thing about deep sleep is your body temperature has to drop by 2 degrees. So that's why, sleeping in a cold room, people like just throw covers off of themselves and just expose their body to the world. But then you have to also understand, one of the core survival values is body core temperature. So it will suppress every system in your body, digestive system, every thrive system, digestive system, immune system, reproductive system, to keep itself warm. So you don't want to just throw your covers off, because your body will suppress all of those 3 systems. So what ends up happening is, if we eat food late, you can eat food, but if you eat too much food late, even up to 4 hours before you go to bed, let's think about like a Thanksgiving dinner, and you eat a big meal, well, that when the byproduct of digestion is heat. So when you eat too much food and you have a lot of heat in your body needs to increase your metabolism to burn it. What will happen is your core temperature will increase, and you'll never get into a deep sleep. So you'll be sweating all night long. You can't get into that deep sleep because you had too much food before you went to bed.
Wow. This is such interesting stuff that I have never thought of. What about, here's just a specific question as it relates to food. And this was just me perusing your website. You have stuff in there around gluten-free, and obviously that's a big lifestyle choice these days, and many people are doing it. Does that have any effect on sleep or chronic pain or inflammation or anything like that?
So gluten, the time I put all that stuff on my website, I do a big gluten-free challenge. And the time so I'm a nutritionist, as I know that you dive into nutrition also. And what we found back in the day was, we thought that gluten was the big issue. Like, it's gluten. Gluten is like the devil, right? And then as we start to kind of get into it, and we see that, gluten's an issue, but what is it about gluten? It's more the glyphosate, right? It's the it's the pesticides that sprayed on the gluten, and it's the highest genetically modified crop out there. So it's that glyphosate that's causing a lot of the inflammation. So yes, because the question was, why can some patients that we were working with gluten-free not eat in the US, but they could go to Europe and they can have pasta over there? So you know, a lot of it has to do with inflammation. You're correct, but a lot of it has to do with the glyphosate. But the thing about like pasta and high gluten meals, before they take a lot of energy, there's a lot of byproduct to break those things down. So what happens is it causes a lot of inflammation, which does cause chronic pain. But what I recommend for people is, if you need to eat before you go to bed because you skipped a meal, when in doubt, I tell people don't eat. But if you skipped a meal and you have to eat before you go to bed, then you want to have something like avocado, a gluten-free toast with some butter on it, just a little bit of a carbohydrate, more fat, a little bit less protein. And because you don't want that food to be very, 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 you don't want to have a lot of food, but you don't want the body to take a lot of energy and create a lot of heat digesting it. So just some small stuff.
Got it. Awesome. Thank you.
A scoop of sunflower butter is also fine to put somebody in bed.
Awesome. That sounds delicious. All right. So we're running a little low on time, and I want to make sure that you get a chance to talk about a button we have below this video that takes you over to an offer which is super amazing and totally ties into what we've been talking about. So can you chat a little bit about the pillow?
Yeah. You know, when we talked, I figured something that would be great would be we do this online program called the 30-Day Sleep Quest. Everything that I'm talking to you about right now, position to sleep, how to get in that position, food to eat, food to stay away from, alcohol, how you use your covers with your spouse, how you doing, how you set up your room. There's so many variables. And we have an online program called the Dr. Sleep Right 30-Day Sleep Quest. So what I figured we could do is, if somebody purchases a neck nest, and I'll explain that to you in a quick second, I will give them that online program, which is $199 value, and we'll also throw in a free pillowcase. Because what that does is, when you get it, you can keep it there. You could go through the whole program, and then you can use it, or you can start using it with some of the tips. But they are like we're talking about today, Andy. They are critical tips that I believe everybody should use. You'll get one video a day with copy of explaining it, and you'll have to make one lifestyle change a day. Or you just take them all, you drop them in your inbox, and then you do it over, you know, instead of doing it over 30 days, do it over 60 days. Take your time with it. There's so many variables, and just use the information that you connect with, because these are gems. And I really, 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 my mission is to create the happiest, healthiest, most well-rested tribe of people on planet Earth. And I'm so excited that you gave me this opportunity in front of your tribe of people to be able to allow me to speak about it. Thank you.
Well, that is such an amazing, passionate mission. And I mean, right, this thing called sleep is so crucial. And like, what I've learned from you today is just so amazing. I didn't ever know the massive connection between our sleep and people struggling with chronic pain, and prevention of chronic pain for people who don't have it, or don't have it in their neck at the moment, or their back or something, right? Like, how much our sleep affects that. So okay, so the neck nest is the pillow that if they purchase, then they get the
neck
course.
nest is this 2-chambered pillow.
Okay.
And it will, so just to talk about it a little bit, you'll use it one way, and it's explained on off of the link. They'll get it. You'll use it one way for the first 3 weeks, and then you use it a second way, because this will break in. What you'll notice is we're only trying to support the 3 inches from our neck to our bed. So this really should go down to nothing, right? So we want it to kind of compress down, and there are videos that explain all of this, but we want it to compress down to a small little area. And if you're having a difficult time with this, when you sign up for the Sleep Quest, every Wednesday night I do a live call like this, and you get to ask me questions if you have any questions on it.
I love it. Thank you. This is just so awesome. And I really appreciate you being willing to give away all of that to help people, you know, have the pillow, know what to do, be actually following stepwise instructions on the journey. And I just love it. So thank you so much. And everyone, please click the button below and learn further if you're interested. And are there any last insights, anything else we're leaving out, anything else you want to talk about before we wrap up?
Yeah, and like you said, and when you first start thinking about sleeping on your back, the number one objective I get is I can't, and I can't do it. I won't be able to. I've tried before. It hurts my back. All you have to do is begin with the end in mind. I need you 1 hour on your back a night. That's it. And then you just start there. And you be on your back with the pillow in the right position. You just start there. Whatever happens in the middle of the night happens within the middle of the night. And you just make that your lifestyle habit. Not that you're a back sleeper right now. You're a 1 hour back sleeper. And then whatever happens, happens.
So how do you like track that? If
You'll just, the goal is just to try to fall asleep on your back. And then when you wake up, because you're tossing and turning, don't worry about it.
Yeah, don't like get to your phone and then be looking at your clock and figure out what time it is.
It's an hour? Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Okay, got it. Yeah, that would probably wake me up even more. So, okay,
Yeah.
excellent. Well,
Good
thank you.
point.
Thank you
That's
for,
a good point, Andy.
thanks for your passion and your story and all the work that you do in the world and your mission to help people and become that well-rested tribe. I love it.
Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you everyone for tuning in. And I highly recommend you work with Dr. Martone further if you're interested. And we will see you on the next one, everybody. Take care.